it has been a while. It feels like since we spoke to our our guest coming up right now. I haven't talked to him in a while, but one of our favorites in the history of the program, and got some delightful news that he is in fact returning to action on the 22nd of February in beautiful Seattle, Washington. In a fight that perhaps wasn't on the radar necessarily, but just great to see him back. He's the former UFC bantamweight champion, one of the very best analysts in the game. You heard him on Saturday at the Apex event on ESPN Plus. ESPN Plus, excuse me. He's the great Dominick Cruz, kind enough to join us. Is he there? There he is. Dom.
What's up, Ariel?
How are
How's
you?
it going? I'm good, man. Living life.
That's
How
my
are you?
virtual hug. That's my virtual hug.
Oh.
I feel like it's been a while.
Yeah, it's well, what's been a while? Which part? There's been a lot of things. It's been a while.
That's
right? I
true.
haven't
That's
fought in
true.
a while.
Just
I haven't
this.
been on the show in a while. I haven't. Well, I talked to you, but we talk separate from the show until I fight. Then I'm relevant.
That's not true. You know what? That is actually so not true. I try to have you on. You're like, I got nothing right now. That is not true. I'm not a Johnny come lately.
Hey, I didn't say it was you, did I? Maybe
No.
It was my choice.
That's true. That's a good point. Why did I get so defensive just there?
It's a great question for you to be an Ariel. It's pretty regular from my experience of you.
With me, really?
You're very defensive.
Have I gotten better?
What's better, man? You're good how you are. It's just who you are, man.
Yeah, but no one wants to deal with a defensive person, like who's always got their guard up.
I'm glad you know that's a very wise thing you just admitted to yourself.
Yeah, we're all works in progress, right?
Facts.
What's the
That's
thing
what
you?
friends are for.
That's true. You tell it like it is. I've always appreciated that about you. If you could change one thing about yourself, what would it be?
I would be nicer to myself and stop being so critical.
Wow. Critical of what?
Well, just think of what we just did right there. Imagine how I am to myself.
Yeah, but like, what do you find? Like, there's a lot I would change about myself. I know off the top of my head. What would you love to change about or improve on?
That the thing that I get to improve on is wanting to change myself because I am how I am. Just love the parts of me that I don't love because that's been the hard thing to learn.
What don't you love about yourself?
I would say I could go. I mean, the list goes on, Ariel. There's so many. I could go for days. Perfectionism, I would say, is my greatest flaw.
You still strive for perfection all these years later.
Yeah, everything I do, that's it. It's a way of being. It's not something you do, and it's something that's not real. It's made up. You can't be perfect, right? We all know that, but that's something that I would like to change is the thought that I could be.
When do you think you've been closest to perfect?
Never, man. It's impossible. Not even close.
Not even close.
That's what's so ironic about it. Like I think like natural. I'll speak for myself. I naturally think that if I strive to be perfect, then I'm going to be the best version, close to perfect. But all it does is create more resistance because it's impossible.
Why are you coming back?
I love to compete, Ariel. You know, I started this sport when it was illegal in every state, and everybody, we were legitimately called human cockfighters, like basically roosters that fight each other with knives. Like we were considered that. And I remember thinking back then, like, really? Like I just enjoy fighting. Keeps me out of trouble. It's legal. So it keeps me from doing stupid things on the street. It keeps me from going out too late. Keeps me from putting, bad things in my body, drugs, alcohol, bad food. Because if I put those things in my body, then I can't compete the next day. I can't defend myself against dangerous people that are trying to hurt me in the gym. So fighting kind of keeps me it just gives me a good route, keeps me clear. And it's a transformation process, man. When you put yourself on a public forum to possibly be the greatest performance that's ever been made or an embarrassing moment, that right there, the dichotomy between that is such a transformational process, and transformation is a public event. So that's what I think this thing's all about. It's a journey about transformation, growing, and martial arts always does that for me. It just helps me really it's like pressing a fast forward button on lessons in life.
Wow.
You get them really fast and really hard, and there's nothing kind about it.
16 days from now, January 29th, 2005, you made your MMA debut. Do you remember that? Rage in the Cage 67 in Phoenix, Arizona.
Wow.
Who did you
Is
fight?
that right?
Yeah.
Is that right? Wow, I didn't know that date. I don't really keep track of the dates, but now I do remember Raging the Cage, obviously, in the fights, but I don't remember when I started.
Do you remember who you fought on that card?
Oh man, fight number one.
Yeah.
I believe it was in Casa Grande. It was a guy from Casa Grande. What was his name? I don't know. I just remember the fight. The fight was really hard. I got strangled a lot. I was just fighting out of chokes the whole fight. Barely made it. I can't remember his name though.
Eddie Castro.
Eddie Castro. That was a hard fight, man. That guy really, really made me realize I needed to gain some weight and get a lot stronger because it was only 155 pounds and up at this time. There was no 125, 35, 45, or women's division at all. I was trying to strengthen myself up to fight a Sean Shirk around this time. He was the champion,
Huh.
or even a Matt Hughes, which is wild to think about.
Yeah.
But that was my only option back then when the sport was there for me, was to beef up and fight at 155. I have like 4 fights at 155. I have like 2 fights at 145, and then I moved to 35 after I lost to Faber the first time.
Tough fight, as you mentioned. Was there any part of you that was like, this isn't for me?
What do you mean? Oh, the first fight?
Yeah.
No. At this time, it was just fun. I was just glad I didn't have to do that on the street and risk getting arrested. So I was, 20 years old, 20, maybe not even that, maybe 19, I think, 19 or 20. So I was just glad that I wasn't on the streets doing stupid things, like I said. And then I was glad to go out there and perform. I made less than $50 for that fight. I made no money.
Wow.
It cost me more money to drive to that fight than I made on the fight itself, the gas money. So at this point, I was doing it to see what to see what I was made of. I feel like a lot of the military does that too. When you go to the military, you're 18, they sign you up because at that time, as a man, I just wanted to see what I have inside me, what makes me different. And, fighting kind of gave that to me, just like military might give that to a lot of people, I feel like, a lot of men or women.
If we would have talked that night and I would have said, okay, like, what's the end goal here? Like, well, what are you actually trying to get out of all this? Where do you end up? Would it have come anywhere near what has happened over the last 20 years?
Absolutely not. No way, Ariel. Like when I started, like I said, my first 5, I got to 6-0 by myself with no coach. I mean, I had guys that would come and they'd support me here and there, and I'd gather them. Matt Verhalen, Eddie Wineland, Ed West, couple like key people, Chad Dietmeyer. These are guys that I used to train with way back in the day. Joe Lozon's brother.
Dan?
Excuse me, I got to do a training. Dan Lozon, I got to train with Efren Escudero, Yatsin Mesa, Seth Baczynski, Santino DeFranco was back in the day. I used to train with him. These are guys that I used to train with. And, I was just doing it, like I said, to stay out of trouble because I enjoyed fighting. I didn't really think it was still illegal. So I didn't know it was going to explode the way it was. But then when The Ultimate Fighter came out, I saw it as a business opportunity. That's when I started looking at it differently. I started to see, wow, this is really getting picked up by everybody. It's going to be a huge sport. I knew it. I just knew in my gut it was going to explode with what Dana and the UFC was doing. And then The Ultimate Fighter was going to be the catalyst to help it explode. And at this time, I was still going to college. So I was working 3-4 jobs at a time, plus coaching wrestling, plus going to college. So it was very hard work. And training was like my only outlet. So it felt so like it filled my heart. And I started to realize real quick, work, school, and all the other stuff drained me. And going to the gym was the only place I felt my heart and my mind felt full and rejuvenated. So once I got to 6-0, I decided, all right, if I can leave the region of Arizona, because I beat most of the best in Arizona in the first 5-6 fights, I said, if I can go leave the region and maybe go to California or Colorado or some other show and win there, then there's a possibility maybe I can do this and have a future. And that's when I got a fight on 2 days' notice in Eric Del Fiero's promotion called Total Combat. And I took the fight and I ended up winning that fight. And it was another really hard fight. And it gave me a lot of confidence. So then when I won that, he brought me back 2 more fights. I won 2 more titles. I had a total of 3 titles. And then he said, hey, I'll coach you. Let's get you ready for Uriah Faber in the WEC. You got 6 weeks. Let's go. And I did it.
I love
Never
these
turned
stories.
back.
I love these stories. Is Eric going to be in your corner on February 22nd?
No, Eric's working. He's basically like the Forrest Griffin of the Mexico City PI.
What?
So he's
The Mexico
he's
City
like,
PI?
performances. You've heard of that, right?
Oh, the PI. I was thinking of like private investigation. Yes, of course. Oh, he's over there now.
Yeah, he's coaching. He's like the head. He's like the forest there,
Got
basically.
it.
Like
Got it.
he facilitates the. He's pretty much doing what he always did with Alliance, but he's now working for the UFC itself, and so that would be a conflict of interest. So yeah, this will be the first fight since I met Eric, since the story I just told you that he will not be in my corner.
Wow. You know why I thought private investigation? Because I know for a minute, well, for the longest time, he was a firefighter as well, right?
Yeah, he retired, and then
Okay.
that's what moved him to this next step of his life where he
Wow.
wanted to go. You know, Eric's always loved coaching, loved being part of the sport, loved giving back to athletes. So when he said he was going to move, it kind of, I was like, man, what am I going to do? You know, where am I going to go? And I was thinking, you know, as a coach, he really like was the only guy who, like I said, picked me up and said, "You don't have a coach." You kept showing up. I kept showing up to these fights with no cornerman and no coach. So he's like, "If you don't have one, I got you. Come with me. Come train with me." And he was the only one who really saw anything in me. Was holding for me for free. Was buying lunch for me when I had no money. Was getting me to the gym. He would give me rides to the gym. I got to sleep on his floor. So there were so many things he gave me for free in the beginning of my career that I was thinking, this is where he wants to go. Maybe I could help him win a championship in his world now. And so I decided to follow him out to the Mexico City PI and just support him in what his dream was and his new dream. I mean, leaving public service work as a firefighter for 20 plus years is, I mean, that's huge. Thank you to all the public safety people out there, firefighters, police officers, military. I mean, incredible human beings. He did that for 20 years and then retired. And then what do you do? And it's like, man, I could really see myself in him with fighting. Like when fighting's done for 20 plus years, what are you going to do? Well, you got to wear a new hat. And it was really respectful to me that he was respectable to me that he was ready to just change hats immediately, jump right back on the horse and try something brand new and different. And it's not an easy job. And he's really kicking ass at it. And I love the way that everything's flowing out there in Mexico City. I love being there and just supporting him and his dreams and what he wants to create the way he did me has really supported both of us in our relationship as friends and family at this point now too. So it became a win-win situation, and I didn't expect it to go that way, but it has, and here I am.
So who will be in your corner on February 22nd, and where are you training for this fight?
I'm training in Mexico City,
Oh, wow.
and I'll be out there. So he won't be able to help me, but I'll bring people out. I've got a guy named Carl Gebhardt that's going to come out. He was in my corner for Casey Kenny and Pedro Munoz, and he'll be in my corner for this one with another guy that I used to train with way back. I brought him out of Tucson, Arizona, with me. His name's Nick Piedmont. He was in my corner when I fought T.J. Dillashaw, and these are the two main leads that I'll have there. They just know me really well. They've known me my whole like a really long time, and I got a good camaraderie and flow with them. And most importantly, they know Eric too, so they all kind of like used to train back in the day a little bit. So we've all got a similar mindset in approach.
Is this your last fight?
That's what's going to happen because the body just isn't the same anymore. You know, when you got to start training differently because the body isn't doing what you need it to, then you're subsidizing, right? You're taking away something here and there, and so I don't want that to be the case. And I think if I just keep going and going, I could end up in a space where I can't lift my arm. I don't know if anybody's seen TJ Dillashaw recently,
Yeah.
but I saw it where he can't even lift his arm this high. Um, you know, I've had multiple shoulder surgeries. Those are the things I've been building over this time that I've been off, is rebuilding the body for this fight to come back and make sure that I can make it through a camp in one piece. And that's always the tough part because I train extremely hard. Mm. I think that was the issue with Cain Velasquez. I think personally, if I watched, that was the issue with Khabib. A lot of the best athletes in the world, the reason we get hurt is we train harder than anybody. I think those two people I named were some of the hardest training athletes in the history of the sport, period, ever. And I think that's why they had a lot of injuries. I think that's also why I've had a lot of injuries. It's just an interpretation. It's not a fact, but from my experience, when I watch champions really train, Alexander Gustafsson comes to mind as well. Some of the hardest training athletes on earth, and a lot of times we're the ones with the most injuries. And as those have added up, I don't want that to be a reason that I don't look as good as I could on fight night.
Did you tell the UFC brass, "Hey, I want a retirement fight. Let's figure it out," or did you ultimately come to the conclusion that this was the fight to take, and then afterwards decide, all right, this is the last one?
I've known as I started training that this was, when you train, Ariel, you feel your body out as an athlete. So I just knew I probably could do 3 or 4 more, but I don't know what the state of my shoulder would look like after that. Whereas if I do this one, I still have an arm. I still can throw a baseball. I can still live life. I can go snowboarding if I want. I can climb a ladder. I can, basics. I want to be able to have my life and my body when this is said and done, and not just be in shambles with no arms, no legs, no back, no neck. I don't want to be that way.
Was Rob Font your choice, or did they offer you Rob Font? In other words, would you have preferred to retire against someone else?
I mean, I don't want it. That's kind of a rude thing to say for me if I was to say that, because I mean, if you've watched Rob Font, he's been around this game forever. He's a very respectable dude. The way he carries himself as a man, I respect that too. He's a good family man, and he's lost and come back, lost and come back. I mean, that's one of the hardest things to do in this sport, and he's found a way to continue to be relevant in this sport. He's still in the top 10. He's coming off a strong win, one of his best performances I've ever seen from him, to be honest. And he's got Faraz Sahabi in his corner, and he, like I said, he's ranked top 10. So this is you can't let opportunities pass you by. That was a nice, because of his status and what he's done in the sport. It's a respectable fight for me against a ranked opponent. And of course, I've said it already. I would have rather had a rematch, to be honest, with somebody that I have history and a story with, like Henry. I believe that was a really good fight to have. But on one end, you got Sean Shelby saying, Henry won't take it. And then when you talk to Ali, you got Ali saying, oh, Shelby didn't want to make it. They like to put old guys with old guys. You know how it is, Dom. So you start hearing two sides of the story from both guys, and you never hear from the fighter themselves. So after a while, you just got to take the opportunities that are given. That's what the UFC offered me, so I took it. I mean, UFC isn't going to try to give me some kind of because they like me fight or something. I don't think that exists for very many people, unless you're Conor McGregor, Ronda Rousey, John Jones, where you bring in, a certain amount of eyes. I think then they'll work with you. But other than that, you just kind of get thrown to the wolves in the UFC.
I heard last week when you were talking to DC and Chael on their show, and you mentioned the Sean Shelby thing, and I wasn't quite sure. You said you thought Sean, you thought it was funny that he put you and Henry on the same card but not fighting each other. Was that, do you think, to annoy Henry, or, for lack of a better word, to annoy you?
That made absolutely. I don't know, man. I don't know if I don't think they care enough about me or Henry to try to annoy us. To be honest, I just don't. But I think that it's good way to create turmoil, right? And this is a drama style sport, so a drama based sport. So I mean, Shelby goes, "Oh, I didn't do that on purpose." It's hard for me to believe that, but who cares? It's here. It is what it is. I can't do anything about it. It's out of my control. They didn't tell me who. When I asked who's the main event, he goes, "Oh, I don't know. We're working on it." And then one day later, it's that. It's like, come on, man. You knew exactly what's going on, but maybe you didn't. Maybe I'm just making all this up and I'm just crazy, right?
Would you have liked to be the main event?
No.
Why not?
I'm not fighting for a title, so I don't get paid more for that kind of work and the extra 2 rounds. You get 25 grand more. If you think about it, I'm getting a certain amount of money for 3 rounds, and then they're going to add 10 minutes, which is more than half the fight extra, and they're only going to give me, basically 10 grand a round for that. That doesn't add up right to me. So if I'm going to main event, if I'm going to run the whole card and promote it and be the man and have to do all this stuff, hopefully I can get, paid more for that, but I won't. So I'll take the co-main event slot. I'll fight 3 rounds. I make the same amount of money whether I'm on the prelims or whether I'm the main event. They don't pay me more for that, other than 25 grand more to be a main event. So you get 25 grand more for 10 minutes more of a fight. And to me, 25 grand isn't worth it. Like a 10-minute fight. Like if you said right now, fight Rob Font for 2 rounds for 25 grand, I'd tell you, no, I'm good. But for some reason, they make you a main event. It's enough. I don't know. It just didn't work that way for me. I've just been in the sport too long. I know how it works. I'm getting paid for the time and the energy I put in in the camp, and a 5-round camp versus a 3-round camp is like a 40-hour work week versus an 80-hour work week. It's two completely different things, man, on the body.
In the past,
And I don't need the main event. Like, it's all
right,
good. I am the main event, and I'm not the main event. So at the
the
end of the
people's
day,
main event.
well, they needed me to promote Henry. Come on.
In the past, when people have told us in advance that this upcoming fight would be the retirement fight, usually the UFC has a video package ready. How would you feel about something like that? You're in the ring, win or lose, you're speaking to whomever is doing the post-fight interviews that night, and a video package plays in front of everyone. Are you comfortable with something like that?
I kind of don't know what you mean. What do you mean?
Oh, Michelle Watterson said, I'm going to retire with this fight, and they had the package, the video, the montage.
Oh,
And then Robbie Lawler, they did it, and they had another one recently too. You know what I'm saying? Like when they're in the ring and they say, "We want to play this for you." Rogan says it, and it airs in front, and everyone gets emotional. When someone retires on the spot, they don't have something ready, obviously, so they can't do that. But usually, in the last couple of years, and by the way, I think it's a great, nice gesture. But I could maybe see someone like you saying, "I don't want that. I don't want that kind of attention." So I was just curious how you would feel about that now that we know this is going to be your retirement fight.
well, if I'm going to be honest, every fight's my retirement fight because I go in there with the. I know people might roll their eyes at this, but I really go in there with the thought that that could be it. Like, I feel like we kind of throw it in the wind that there's a chance we could all die in there. And to me, I don't do that. So every fight for me is my last. That's why I'm always in really good shape. That's why I fight from one bell to the end, because at the end of the day, it takes one shot landing wrong and you're not in a good place. So I don't take that lightly. I don't give any chances. I don't give anything. So every fight for me has been like my last retirement fight. I think saying that it's my retirement fight gives that to other people to hold on to. But that's the mentality I've gone into every fight anyway. So it doesn't really change much for me. If anything, it might, get me to just, think about you're on a run, right? You do long runs, Ariel?
Yeah. A couple miles.
Yeah. Do you ever get to the end of the run and think, okay, let's pick it up. We're almost done.
Yeah.
There's light at the end of the tunnel. Sprint.
Mm.
And then you get to the end and you got nothing left because you sprinted. That's what I'm looking at. Just sprint it out. Sprint
I
it
love
out. Go hard. Don't stop. This isn't lighten up because you're at the end. This is pick it up because you're at the end.
Is there any chance you think you look tremendous in the fight and you're like, nah, I got a few more miles left in me?
You wait to the moment, but I'm looking to be more smart than reactive in this situation, and it all comes down to my body, Ariel.
Yeah.
My body tells me what to do, not my mind. In this one, once you get to a certain place, it's all like, oh, your mind is stronger than your body. Yeah, that's true. For about 20 years in MMA fighting, yes, that's true. And then after a while, you got to start playing the balance game with the mind and the body. And then when that happens, that's why they say it's a young man's sport. A young man doesn't have to do that. A young man's mind is always, uh, it can get through it. But I've got to make sure my body and my mind work in balance so I can get in there and do my job at the highest level. So yeah, I'm just listening to my body, man. That's it. That's all this is about.
It's been about like 30 months since your last fight. And amazingly, that's not the longest layoff of your career. Obviously, for those that have been watching you for a long time, I think it's actually the third longest layoff of your career. And I wonder if, and you referenced the injuries and your story, we obviously were covering it for a very long time. And it's been a great privilege and pleasure and honor, despite sometimes, I think, me annoying you, but I know you always loved it. In any event, I do wonder if there's poetic justice in your mind. The fact this guy who was a champion, who had all the injuries and then the re-injuries and all this, you've outlasted everyone from your era. You're the only one left.
Funny how that works.
Isn't that amazing?
It's funny.
Do you take some solace in that? So there's some joy in that?
No, it's just it's a different thing than solace and joy. It's more of like, holy cow, what a trip. There was a time where I thought I wasn't going to last.
You'd be the first out, right?
I'll never forget, like I blew, yeah, kind of. I had that in my head, like at certain times, that's what kept me going was letting go of control. But I'll never forget when I called Dana after one of my knee blows out, and he goes, "You have the worst luck of anybody I've ever met in my life." And I'm on the phone and I'm like, "Okay, thanks, Dana. How is that going to support me right now? What do I do with that information?" And he just goes, "I don't know." And I go, "I know, me neither. So thanks, but I don't think I'm unlucky. You can't think that way. So it doesn't work to think that way. I gamble with my body. I'm not gambling in a game. So if you're gambling with your body, you can't start thinking you're unlucky." So I never really thought that way. I just kind of always stayed one foot in front of the other, having an open mindset that, things will work out if they're supposed to, let go of control. And they did. Um, and as for, everybody else, I think what's funny is looking back and thinking, man, you're so young with all these injuries. You're never going to come back the same. I'm sorry, you lost prime years of your career, da 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 da. But a lot of those people that were saying that or that were watching that are now in the same injuries I am. They were just at a different time. So I think that everybody deals with what I've dealt with. It's going to come when it comes for you in your life at your time. So be ready. Nobody gets out free.
By the way, considering your job, you're sitting there, you're calling all these fights, you've been around the fight game for a long time. I'm wondering if there was any part of you that has seen some situations that are maybe a little tough to digest. It's a guy we love, it's a fighter we love, and you can tell that Father Time has defeated them, and they're not who they once were. This doesn't just affect fighters; that affects all of us. We all lose a step, we all get
Yes.
older, etc. Have you ever watched that and said, "I want," because you've never been in that position. It's not, you're done by all accounts in a month and a half. Say, I don't want to be that guy with 6, 7 losses in a row, and everyone's like talking behind my back and feeling sorry for me.
That too, Ariel. That too. That's a reality thing. Some of my favorite legends in the sport have had that happen to them.
Hmm.
And I said it to Bisping one time when we were on air on Fox and we almost got in the fight after we got off air. But it was, sometimes it takes more guts to stop than it does to keep going. And when I watch certain careers, that's my premise. And I learn from them. I've learned a lot, and I'm grateful for them to take the chances and put their lives on the line so that I can learn that from watching them. And they're still legends to me, whether they lose 10 or not, because the thing about being a legend to me and these guys in the UFC is they're willing to go out there to lose also. When we talk about fans and people who say they can beat up fighters, it's one thing to say it. It's another thing to actually put yourself on a public forum and be it, prove it, because there's a chance that it might not go the way you thought. And that's the thing about the publicity and the public forum of it. When you're fighting in the gym and you're taking juice and you're doing all this stuff and you're a fan and you're like, I could definitely, yeah, because there's nothing to embarrass you for you to think about on the other side of things. So all these guys who put their life on the line, lost 7 in a row, lost 8 in a row, just kept coming back. Yeah, I don't look down on them in any way. I learned from them. And I respect them for being willing to just be so vulnerable. It's a vulnerable place to go out there in that octagon, Ariel. Like, it might not be the word that people think of, but it is. Because at the end of the day, you can have the greatest performance ever, or you can get knocked out. And getting knocked out is a vulnerable feeling. And I think people who talk trash on the outside and people who are not professional prize fighters that think they can fight professional prize fighters, I think those are those are the guys that need to understand that humility is what they're missing. And that's what you learn in martial arts when you fight on these stages.
Do you walk away with any regrets?
No, no. It's been such a crazy road, man. Like there's absolutely no way I could have guessed that that it would go the way it's gone with, especially with the TV work, man. I've been doing TV for over 10 years now,
Crazy.
for over a decade, and I've been fighting the whole time. And the funniest thing is listening to people think I'm retired just because I'm working. I've been working a job more than half my career. Almost my entire career, I've had a job while I compete at the highest level. People think that because I'm calling fights that I'm not fighting. I've been fighting the whole time. So I just didn't see myself moving into a job when I became champion. And it's crazy that that's what happens. You become champion, and what happens is you get more work, and then you get a job. And then if you fight, but you're going to be fighting while you have a job. And that's what's weird. I think that's what happens to a lot of champions that, changes things in their life is, you got a lot of work to do.
Other than the TV work, what will you do?
Man, I got a lot of things I want to do. I want to commend Demetrious Johnson.
Oh yeah.
He's done an amazing job with himself at transitioning and creating something beautiful for himself and his family with entertainment. He's got a really warm personality, so it doesn't surprise me he's successful. Like win, lose or draw, the guy's just a warm human being.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that that's translated really well for him for his YouTube, for Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, for podcasts. And, I think that that's just a realm that obviously I'll move into as well when it comes to, I'm already doing ESPN and I work for the UFC as a private contractor. So that it just all kind of molds into the same forum. Obviously Bisping and DC have done it as well. It's kind of a natural movement that way, but I also have a 10-year plan, and that should, I have very clear intention of folding that out and continuing where I'm at already at the same time. Also giving back to the sport, being in Mexico City with all these youngsters and training with them has really rejuvenated me, being around them. And I love giving back to the sport that's given so much to me. So no doubt I'll be into coaching and all that too.
What's at the top of the 10-year plan?
A facility with like one-stop shop facility, similar to what the UFC PI has going on, would be the goal.
Okay. Dare I ask, would you call it Alliance MMA?
No, that wasn't my. I made not one penny off that deal.
Yeah.
So it was more, Brandon Vera, Eric Del Fiero, a guy named Joel Coombs, and another guy. 4 of them got together, came up with the idea, and I was just growing in the sport at this time. So I put the gym name on my back because these were all my friends, and I loved training there, and they were coaching me, and I put the name on my back because they were my people, they're my family. But I didn't make a penny off that. So no, not Alliance. It'll be called something different.
And I'll let you go in a moment, but just curious because we're talking about the Cejudo fight, and I know you've often said that you didn't agree with the stoppage. You were there on Saturday. A couple of days later, I find the discussion around the Curtis Kopylov fight to be fascinating because, as you know, referees don't look at the clock, right? They shouldn't look at the clock. You need to ref whether there's a second left or 4:59 left. And then if you look at how that last round went, and once you get the scorecards, you see it was 1-1 heading into the third on all 3 judges' scorecards. And I think with the stoppage, or excuse me, with the knockdown, Kopylov wins the fight, and yet Curtis and his team are very upset. And so you're there, you're taking it all in. You do a tremendous job as always. Knowing that now that it was 1-1 and he probably wins that round despite it being a second, and I do not begrudge Curtis or his team in the moment for being pissed. Like there's literally a second left. Holy crap. How do you feel about Mark Smith's decision?
Well, I actually, one of the things I want to give credit to Mark Smith about is he's one of the few refs that comes up to me after every show and asks for feedback.
Wow.
To improve.
Wow.
Literally. He says, hey, how can I improve? How could I have done that better? And he came up to me after that fight and said, Dom, what do you think?
Wow.
And I said, if that was me, I would have been pissed off at you and wanted to kill you too, man. There's 1 second left on the clock. And I think him stopping and walking off threw you off. And he said, fair, yeah, it threw me off. But I never, when you come from a responsible place like that, like he does, and you take responsibility and you're really looking for feedback, nobody bashes that guy. That's just living life, and you're growing, and he's trying to get better, and I get that. But yeah, it wasn't. I don't think that was the best way to handle it. And refs mess up, and they're humans, and there's human error in the process. I think that you can't do much about that. But that's kind of my point. We go back to where I was saying before. There's a lot of people that are held accountable for these vulnerable situations, and it's usually just the fighter. Like, if there's a mess up from the ref, there's no accountability on that. It's just, oh, well, the fighter loses all their money and loses everything, and nothing happens to the ref or the judges. They just go on to the next thing. There's no, you've done, all right, like what if the refs did 6 bad fights in a row and the judges did 7 bad fights in a row and everybody knows it? So they're going to go on to 8. They're going to go
Yeah.
on to 9. They're going to go. There's no way to. There's no accountability for them, and there's only accountability for us, and not just accountability, but everybody's going to talk trash. You got the rest of your career. You lost half your purse. You lost your opportunity to move up in line. Everything. We lose everything from that mistake.
Yep.
Everything. So that's what's hard for a guy like Curtis, and that's what's hard for me in my situation. And the difference with me and the whole Keith Peterson thing is, I don't hate the guy. It's just that I want some sort of like accountability for the mistakes sometimes, because we get ripped so hard. Like, I lost a huge opportunity there. Like, that was part of the fight, is to get hurt and to keep coming back. And that was, I know it wasn't pretty, but I expected the fight to go that way. And so when you stop it with a second left and I'm on my feet, I was mad because in the back, I had to reset the man and say, hey, can you redo this all again? Because you're not looking him in the eyes. And are you good? And in the back, if you have to tell the ref, are you good? Are you here with me while I'm getting ready to fight? There's already something off. And I felt that in the back with him. And so when he went out there and had that performance and messed up, after I told him, don't stop this under any circumstance. Are you here with me? Are you listening to me? And he wasn't there. He wasn't there in the back. And that's the thing nobody in the world saw. They only see the fight.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't see me holding him accountable before the fight saying, hey, don't mess this up. I need you to let this fight go. Things might get dirty. I might get dropped. I'm going to need you to let this go. I'm going to be all right. And then he stops it with 1 second left and does the complete opposite what I say. That's why I went after him, because I warned him, don't do that. And he did it anyways because he got shook. If you watch the fight, Henry's looking at him, begging him to stop the fight. If you watch me versus Mizugaki and you watch Henry versus me, they're two different people. Me versus Mizugaki, I'm going to punch Mizugaki's head through the fence until he can't breathe anymore. Henry's begging for somebody to stop the fight, because if we go to the next round, you got another hard, miserable round with me. I'll rip your toenails off before I'll quit. So it's a tactic to look at the ref and go, hey, don't make me hurt this person. That's not what I'm here for. I'm not here for the ref to save me. I don't need you. Stay out of my fight. I'm good. If I die, I die. That's what I'm here to do. I already put that on the line. So all that was tied into my emotions of the Keith Peterson thing. And I could totally get Curtis, because I'm sure he has a similar mindset. We had a lot of money on the line. Our entire life's work is put into those moments. And when a ref can go in there and just go, oh, you look bad. Like, dude, you don't know what I'm ready for. You don't know how much beating I'm ready to take. Because why? Because you don't do it. So it's just hard, because there's no real accountability. They can just keep messing up and messing up and messing up and messing up and messing up. And we lose all our money and all our opportunities. The refs, the judges, they're a separate entity. They don't care.
Have you seen Keith? Have you guys talked? Have you seen him in person?
Oh yeah, I shook his hand plenty of times, but it doesn't change that there's I'm holding the accountability just the same way accountability's been held on me. You went, oh, you shouldn't have put yourself in that situation, Dom. Agreed. I got caught. I got hit. Shouldn't have been there. Okay. Well, there's another side to that too. The refs got to do their job. And what do they tell you in the back? Well, you needed to be defending yourself at all times, and you need to be trying to work your way up, and then we'll keep the fight going. I did my part.
I always enjoy these chats. I love these chats, Dom. I hope, if you do stop fighting, that we can still speak. Could we still be friends? Could we still chat? You know what I know?
I told you already. What did I tell you? Say it. Tell everybody. What did I tell you?
Well, you know what? I respect off the record conversation, so I don't know what's on. To me, a text is always off the record. So you tell them, because I don't know what's.
All right. Well, I told you that if we ever want to talk, we're friends, and we don't have to just do it here.
Yeah, that's true.
We can talk separate from here without you getting something from it. If you're really my friend, you don't need to have this whole interaction for your show. We can just talk separate, and you get nothing from it other than knowing me. And so you can talk to me anytime you want, Ariel. You just got to reach out. And it doesn't need to be this big show where you get, oh, Ariel got Dominick Cruz. Ariel got all these famous people on his show because he's awesome.
No, that's not what it is. But you know what?
Good.
I did. It warmed my heart. I looked at your Instagram today. I saw that one of your pinned posts was our chat after the TJ win, which is still to this day my favorite interaction ever with a fighter after a fight. Like that one answer, greatest moment of your life. Greatest moment of my life is when I realized I didn't need the belt to be happy. That meant a lot, and it has nothing to do with me, but it's a moment that I remember with great, great fondness. I could put myself right back there, and I remember the feeling that washed over my body when you said it. And I'm glad to see, at least based on what a pinned post on Instagram means, I'm glad to see it meant something to you as well.
Of course, man. It was just real. I wasn't saying it to say it for anything. It was off the cuff. And I was very in a raw emotional state at that time. It was a crazy moment. So
Amazing.
thanks for the question.
Thanks for the time, Dom. Much love. Good luck in the final month and a half left of this perhaps final training camp, it sounds like. Thank you for always being so kind and gracious, and tremendous work with the broadcasting and the analyst work. And I hope that you do start a YouTube channel and do all the other stuff that all the other guys are doing. That's great.
Yeah, I will be doing all that. It's coming for you, fans. Thank you for asking.
All right. I could be a guest too on your show if you want. If you need me, just let me know.
You guys all heard it.
Yeah, there it is. There it is. Anytime.
Coming.
I owe you like 1,000 interviews, so it's the least I can do. Thank you, Dom.
I look forward to it. We'll have you on soon.
You're
Thanks,
the man.
buddy.
All right, there he is, the great Dominick Cruz, returning to action. One final walk, February 22nd in Seattle. Thanks for watching this video. Hey, before you go, do me a favor, hit that sub button, give us a thumbs up, hit the little bell thingy as well. Leave us a nice comment or two. We appreciate you all very much.